Lila Bennett had never been good at talking to people. She preferred machines. Quiet, predictable, and rarely surprised by anything she did. Working as a xenotech assistant on Station Nova 7 suited her just fine. It was far from Earth, tucked in the cold silence of space and filled with all kinds of alien devices that needed fixing or studying. Most of the time, she wore her earpiece low, kept her head down, and avoided conversations. Nova 7 wasn't a military base, but it wasn't exactly homey either. It buzzed with diplomats, scientists, traders, and visitors from dozens of species. Some looked almost human, others didn't. Lila didn't mind either way. She liked her work, and her coworkers were used to her quiet presence. She knew how to keep things running, even when they weren't built for human hands. One morning, the station's main screen flickered to life during breakfast hour. Everyone paused to watch. An official message scrolled across. A new diplomatic program was being launched. Something called the Emotional Resonance Initiative. The idea was simple. Humans and aliens would be paired up and monitored for meaningful interactions. If those interactions reached a certain level, small neural-linked indicators worn by both parties would light up. It was supposed to test whether humans could truly connect with other species on an emotional level. The project leaders believed this could lead to better understanding, deeper alliances, maybe even peace between species that had barely spoken in centuries. Most people seemed excited. Some laughed about it. Others thought it was pointless. Lila thought it sounded like a waste of time. She read the rest of the message while eating a dry piece of toast. Volunteers were needed. There would be lab hours, interviews, and a chance to work with real alien delegates. Lila didn't care about the interviews or the credits, but extra lab access was tempting. After finishing her meal, she walked back to her workstation and tapped into the volunteer form. She didn't write much. Name: Lila Bennett. Reason for joining: research access. Submit. She didn't expect to be picked. She figured they wanted outgoing types, people who smiled easily and made friends fast, people not like her. But 2 days later, a message popped up on her terminal. Selected. First meeting was scheduled for the next morning. Partner assignment: Kithra of the Vayari cluster. Lila had heard of the Vayari, tall, insect-like beings with chitinous skin and voices that hummed through translator collars. They moved in ways that made most humans uncomfortable. Too many joints, too many eyes. Still, she told herself it was just another assignment. Show up, do the minimum, get the lab hours, move on. The next morning, she arrived late. She hadn't slept well. The room was already half full. At the front stood a tall figure with long limbs and a curved frame. Its skin shimmered faintly under the station lights. Its collar buzzed softly as it spoke to someone else. Lila took a seat in the back. She crossed her arms, waited. Eventually, the coordinator called names. Hers came last. Lila Bennett, meet Kethra. Kethra turned. Her head tilted slightly. Hello, Lila Bennett, she said, voice like static and wind. Hi, Lila replied. They stared at each other for a moment. No one else was watching. The indicator clipped to Lila's wrist remained dark. Kethra stepped closer. I am told we are to work together. Looks like it, Lila said. Neither smiled. Neither moved much. The session ended quietly as Lila walked away. She wondered if this whole thing was going to be a mistake. The next time Lila saw Kethra, it was in the station's shared lab. Lila had come to run a diagnostic on a broken alien translator unit. She didn't expect company. Kethra stood near the far wall looking at a display of human tools. Her long fingers moved slowly over the images as if trying to understand what each one did. Lila walked in and gave a small nod. Hey, Kethra turned. Hello, Lila Bennett. Lila set down her kit and looked at the translator on the table. It was silent, unresponsive. She sighed. This is going to take a while. May I help? Kethra asked. Lila hesitated. She wasn't used to working with others, especially not someone like Kethra. But she shrugged. Sure. Maybe you can. Hold this for me. She handed Kethra a small stabilizer tool. It was delicate and its grip was easy to lose. Kethra took it carefully. Her movements were precise, almost too much so. As they worked, Kethra spoke in short bursts. Her voice came through the collar with a soft buzz. "Your species touches noses very little," she said. Lila paused. "What?" "Among my people, touching is common. We use our antennae to share feeling, memory, even thought. Yet humans rarely touch when they speak." Lila blinked. "We do, sometimes. Not like that, though." "Why?" Kethra asked. Lila wasn't sure how to answer. She thought about it. "I don't know. Maybe because it feels too personal, or maybe we're just shy." Kethra tilted her head again. "Shy? Like, afraid to be close," Lila said. Kethra was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out gently and tapped Lila's shoulder with one finger. Lila flinched slightly. Kethra pulled back. "Did I offend?" "No," Lila said quickly. "Just surprised me." "You are very still," Kethra observed. "Like your machines." Lila gave a small smile. "Maybe I'm part machine." Kethra studied her. "You do not smile often?" "Not really," Lila admitted. They went back to work. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. After some time, Kethra asked another question. "Do all humans avoid contact?" "Most of us," Lila said. "Unless we know someone well." "Then how do you know who to trust?" "We just figure it out," Lila said. "That seems difficult." "It is," Lila said. For the first time since they met, Kethra made a sound that might have been a laugh. It came out like a series of quick clicks. Lila raised an eyebrow. "Was that funny?" "Perhaps," Kethra said. Lila shook her head. "You're weird." "And you are strange," Kethra replied. They looked at each other. Then, without warning, the indicator on Lila's wrist flickered, just once. Orange light. Low-level resonance. Lila glanced at it, then at Kethra. "Did you see that?" Kethra leaned closer. "Yes, that means something," Lila said. "Perhaps we are beginning," Kethra said. "Or maybe it was a glitch," Lila added. Kethra tilted her head again. "You do not believe in small steps." "Not usually," Lila said. "Then we will take large ones," Kethra said. Lila smiled again, just a little. "Okay, let's try. Let's—" Lila wasn't sure what to make of the flicker. It had been brief, barely a flash of orange light on her wrist, but Kethra had seen it too. Still, Lila told herself not to get excited. It could have been anything. Static, interference, maybe, even a malfunction in the indicator itself. But over the next few days, she found herself thinking about it. She was at her workstation again, halfway through recalibrating a damaged gravitic stabilizer, when a shadow fell across her desk. She looked up and saw Kethra standing there, quiet and still. "Hello?" Kethra said. "Hey," Lila replied. Kethra held out something in her long fingers. It was a small, flat object, dark in color with tiny grooves running across its surface. "What's that?" Lila asked. "A gift," Kethra said. "From my people. It is used during times of learning." Lila took it carefully. It was smooth, almost warm to the touch. "Thanks," she said, unsure what else to say. "You are welcome," Kethra said. There was an awkward pause. Then Lila pointed to the stool beside her. "Want to sit?" Kethra nodded and sat down, folding her limbs neatly. For a while, they just sat together. Lila worked. Kethra watched. Eventually, Kethra spoke. "We are paired for the program, but I do not know you." "Not much to know," Lila said. "That is not true," Kethra said. "I wish to learn more." Lila glanced at her. "Why?" "Because the indicator lit," Kethra said simply. Lila frowned. "It was just a flicker." "Still," Kethra said, "I have not seen it do that before." "Maybe I'm just weird," Lila muttered. "Perhaps," Kethra agreed. They were silent again. Then Kethra asked, "Do you enjoy your work?" "Yeah," Lila said. "Machines don't talk back. They don't expect things from you. If they break, you fix them. Done." "And people?" Kethra asked. Lila sighed. "People are messy. They say one thing and mean another. They pretend to be fine when they're not. They lie. Your kind finds trust difficult," Kethra said. "Most of us, yeah," Lila admitted. "Then perhaps we should begin there," Kethra said. "How?" "By being honest," Kethra said. "Always." Lila gave a short laugh. "Easier said than done." "Then we will try," Kethra said. Lila looked at her. Kethra's many eyes were fixed on her, unreadable yet steady. "Okay," Lila said finally. "Let's try." The next day, Lila ran into Kethra near the station's maintenance corridor. She was crouched low, trying to reach something inside a broken air vent. Her movements were precise, but her body was too tall for the space. "Need help?" Lila asked. "Yes," Kethra said without looking up. Lila knelt beside her and reached into the vent. Her hand brushed against something metal and loose. She pulled it out. A small data chip. "This it?" she asked. "Yes," Kethra said. "Thank you." Lila handed it over. As she did, their fingers touched for a moment. The indicator on Lila's wrist lit up again. Brighter this time. Orange. Steady. Lila blinked. So did Kethra. They both looked at each other. "Well," Lila said slowly. "That's new." "It did not flicker," Kethra said. "It stayed." "Guess we're making progress," Lila said. "Or taking large steps," Kethra added. Lila smiled a little. "Yeah, maybe." She stood up, brushing dust off her sleeve. "Next time, maybe find someone smaller for tight spaces." "I will remember that," Kethra said. As Lila walked away, the warmth of the indicator lingered on her skin. She didn't mention it. Neither did Kethra, but they both felt it. Something was happening. Slowly. Quietly. But it was happening. Lila had never been big on music. Back on Earth, she used to listen to the radio just to fill silence, not because she loved it. But now, in the small shared lab space where she and Kethra often met, something about sound felt different. They had fallen into a routine. Most days they would work side by side, Kethra studying human tech, Lila helping her understand it. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. Either way, the indicator stayed lit. Orange. Steady. One afternoon, while Lila was cleaning out an old data drive, she found a hidden folder labeled Music. Curiosity got the better of her. She tapped it and pulled up a soft, slow song from her home state. Guitar, fiddle, and a voice that sounded tired yet warm. She played it without thinking. The moment the first notes filled the room, Kethra stopped what she was doing. Her head tilted slightly, antennae shifting. "What is this?" she asked. "Music," Lila said. "Old folk tune." Kethra listened for a moment longer. Then she began tapping her fingers lightly on the table beside her. At first it seemed random, but soon Lila realized she was matching the rhythm. "You like it?" Lila asked. "It is strange," Kethra admitted, "but I feel something." "What kind of something?" "Like movement," Kethra said. "Like thought, like feeling." Lila smiled a little. "Yeah, that's kind of the point." Kethra kept tapping. "Your species uses sound to share emotion." "Most do," Lila said. "Some use it to remember. Some use it to forget." "You use it to think," Kethra observed. "Maybe," Lila said. After the song ended, Kethra sat still for a long time. Then she reached into her belt pouch and pulled out a small device. It looked like a flat stone with ridges along the edges. "This is Vayari music," she said. She pressed a button. A deep, rhythmic hum filled the air. It wasn't melody in the human sense. It was more like vibration, like the sound of rain, hitting metal in a pattern only nature could make. Lila blinked. "That's Different. Yes, Keithra said. But it tells a story. What kind of story? Of loss, Keithra said. And return. Lila listened. It wasn't easy to follow, but there was something in the sound that made her chest feel tight. Do you miss your home? She asked after a while. Yes, Keithra said simply. But I also learn here. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to leave everything behind, Lila said. You are not the same as me, Keithra said. But you are learning too. Lila looked down at her wrist. The indicator had changed. Yellow now. Higher resonance. She swallowed. We're getting somewhere, huh? Slowly, Keithra said. Or maybe faster than we realize, Lila added. Keithra gave one of her clicking laughs. Perhaps both. They sat together, surrounded by tools, broken machines, and two very different kinds of music. Outside, Station Nova 7 drifted silently through space. Inside, something new was taking shape. Not loud, not fast, but real connection. Word about Lila and Keithra's growing connection had started to spread. It wasn't anything big, just quiet talk in the halls, a few curious glances during meals, the occasional question from coworkers. But for Lila, it was enough to make her uneasy. She had never liked being noticed. She preferred the background hum of machines, the steady rhythm of tools in her hands. Now people were watching her, asking questions, even making jokes about how she was becoming the station's first human Vayari translator. It didn't help that more volunteers were joining the program, hoping to replicate what she and Keithra had done. Some tried too hard. Others gave up quickly. Most failed to get even a flicker from their indicators. So when a group of diplomats invited Keithra to a formal dinner, it seemed like a good idea at first. They wanted to show progress to prove that humans and aliens could not only work together, they could build trust. Lila wasn't invited, but she heard about it later. The dinner took place in the main hall, under soft lights and with long tables, filled with food. There was music playing, soft voices, laughter. But for Keithra, everything was wrong. Someone had placed a large bowl of seafood near her seat. The smell was strong, sharp. Vayari had a very sensitive sense of scent, and this one made Keithra recoil. Another delegate kept staring at her antennae, pointing and whispering to his friend. Someone else asked her strange questions, not out of real curiosity, but as if testing her like she was something unusual instead of someone. Keithra said little. She barely touched her food. When the evening ended, she left without saying goodbye. Lila found her later sitting alone near the edge of the observation deck. The stars stretched out behind her, endless and quiet. Hey, Lila said, stepping forward. Keithra looked up. Hello? Lila sat beside her. I heard about the dinner. Then you know it did not go well, Keithra said. They meant well, Lila offered. Perhaps, Keithra said. But they did not listen. Lila sighed. Humans don't always know how to act around things they don't understand. You do, Keithra said. Not always, Lila admitted. But I try. There was a pause. Then Keithra reached up and adjusted her collar. They asked me why I spend time with you. What did you say? That you are different. Lila smiled faintly. Thanks, I think. You do not pretend, Keithra said. You do not force things. I just figure. Better slow than fake, Lila said. Keithra nodded. Then, after a moment, she looked at Lila's wrist. The indicator had changed again. Green. Steady. Lila blinked. Well, that's new. Keithra studied it for a moment. It is brighter. Yeah, Lila said quietly. Guess we're getting better at this. Or maybe, Keithra said, we were never trying to be perfect, just honest. Lila looked at her. Maybe that's the point. They sat there, side by side under the glow of distant stars. No fancy dinners, no loud voices, just quiet understanding, and, for the first time since the program began, Lila felt something she hadn't expected, not just curiosity, not just duty, something closer to friendship. Real, slow, and growing. Lila and Keithra started meeting more often, not just for the program, not just for work, but because they wanted to. Sometimes they talked for hours. Other times they sat in silence while Lila fixed broken tech and Keithra watched. They had found something neither of them had expected. Understanding. But understanding didn't mean everything was easy. One afternoon, as they sat in the quiet corner of the station's lower deck, Lila asked a question she had been thinking about for days. "How do your people say sorry?" Keithra tilted her head. "Why do you ask?" "Because I think humans are bad at it," Lila said. "We say things we don't mean, then we pretend it didn't happen." Keithra thought for a moment. "Among my people, apology is done through touch. We place our antennae together and share memory. It shows truth." "So no hiding," Lila said. "No," Keithra agreed. "It is hard, but it is honest." Lila looked down at her hands. "I've never been good at saying sorry." "Then maybe you should try," Keithra said gently. Lila gave a small laugh. "You make it sound simple." "It is not," Keithra admitted. "But it is better than silence." After that, they began teaching each other more than language or customs. Lila showed Keithra how to read human expressions, not just smiles or frowns, but the tiny things like eye movement, tone, shifts, even silence. Keithra taught Lila about Vayari morning rituals, which involved weaving patterns in complete quiet, each thread representing a memory of someone lost. They weren't just learning about each other's species anymore. They were building something new between them, and the indicator stayed green. Always. Word got around that their connection was growing stronger. Some people were curious, others confused. A few even annoyed. One day, a scientist named Dan stopped Lila in the hallway. He was one of the newer volunteers, eager and loud. "Hey, how's it going with Bug Girl?" he asked, grinning. Lila frowned. "Her name's Keithra." Dan waved a hand. Yeah, look, I just wanted to ask, how'd you get the indicator to light up so fast? Me and my partner have been trying everything, nothing works." Lila crossed her arms. "It wasn't fast, and we didn't try everything, we just listened." Dan looked disappointed. "That's it?" "Pretty much," Lila said. He shook his head. "Man, that's not helpful." "Maybe you're trying too hard," she said. He gave a short laugh. "Or maybe your alien's just easier to get along with." Lila didn't answer. She just walked away. Later that night, she told Keithra what happened. "Some people think it's easy," Lila said. "Like it just happens." "It does not," Keithra said. "It takes time." "And patience," Lila added. "And honesty," Keithra said. Lila nodded. "Yeah, mostly that." They sat together in silence for a while. Then Keithra reached out slowly and touched Lila's shoulder again. This time, the indicator didn't just glow green. It pulsed, steady, deep, as if it knew something had changed. Not big, not flashy, just real. And that was enough. Not just from co-workers or scientists, but from station officials. Quiet conversations stopped when she walked into a room. Some people smiled too much. Others didn't smile at all. Then came the messages. First, it was a simple reminder. Remember, your role in the program is observational, not personal. Then another. Emotional involvement may affect diplomatic neutrality. And finally, a direct request to meet with Dr. Marlowe, one of the senior coordinators of the initiative. When Lila arrived, at the small office tucked near the command deck, Marlowe was waiting. She was tall, calm, and wore the kind of polite expression that meant trouble. "Thank you for coming," Marlowe said, gesturing to a chair. Lila sat down slowly. "You and Keithra have made impressive progress," Marlowe began. "The resonance levels are higher than we've seen in any other pair. So that's a good thing, right?" Lila asked. Marlowe nodded. "In theory, but we're concerned about how this might be affecting the broader goals of the program." "How?" Lila frowned. "Some of our partners worry that too much familiarity can lead to bias," Marlowe said carefully. We want understanding, not attachment. Lila felt something tighten in her chest. You're saying we're getting too close? We're saying, Marlowe said, that human emotions can be unpredictable, and unpredictability makes some of our alien delegates uneasy. So what do you want me to do? Lila asked, voice low. We'd like you to step back, Marlowe said. Limit your interactions with Kethra to scheduled program meetings. No informal contact. Lila didn't say anything for a long time. Then she stood up. I understand. She left without another word. Later that night, Lila found Kethra waiting outside her quarters. You were late, Kethra said. Had a meeting, Lila muttered. Kethra studied her face. Something is wrong. Lila sighed and stepped aside, letting Kethra in. They sat on the small bench by the window looking out at the stars. They told me to stop seeing you outside the program, Lila said. Why? Kethra asked. Because they think we're getting too close, Lila said. They think it's messing with diplomacy. Kethra was quiet for a moment, then she said, They fear what they do not understand. Guess so, Lila said. But we understand each other, Kethra said. Yeah, Lila agreed. Then why should we stop? Lila looked at her. Because if I push back, they might pull me out completely. Kethra tilted her head. And what do you want? Lila didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, I want to keep doing this. I want to keep talking, keep learning. I just don't know if I'm allowed. Kethra reached out slowly and placed a hand over Lila's wrist where the indicator glowed softly. Green, steady. Then we will find a way, Kethra said. Quietly. Lila gave a tired smile. You make it sound easy. It is not, Kethra admitted. But it is worth it. They sat there side by side under the soft hum of station lights. Outside, space stretched on forever. Inside, two very different beings held onto something rare. Connection, even if no one else understood. Lila and Kethra kept meeting, but now they were careful. They talked in quiet corners of the station, walked through lesser-used corridors, and shared meals when no one else was watching. It wasn't hiding, not exactly, but it wasn't open, either. Still, their connection grew. One day, they were asked to take part in a public demonstration. It was supposed to be a simple presentation, showing how the resonance program worked, what kind of progress had been made. But when Lila stood on the small stage with Kethra beside her, she realized this was more than just a talk. The room was full. Diplomats, scientists, even some alien delegates who had been skeptical from the start. Kethra stood tall, calm as always. Lila, on the other hand, felt like she might forget how to speak. The moderator introduced them, then stepped back. Please show us what you've learned. Lila looked at Kethra. Kethra gave a small nod. Then, instead of giving a speech or showing data, Lila tapped her wrist. The display flickered, pulling up a short video log, just a few clips of them. Together. Nothing staged. Just real moments. In one, Kethra asked why humans didn't touch much. In another, Lila laughed after knocking heads with her during a tool cleanup. There was footage of them sharing music, trying to teach each other, words that didn't translate well, sitting in silence while working side by side. As the video played, the audience stayed quiet. When it ended, the indicator on Lila's wrist glowed brighter than ever before. Blue, a level of resonance no one had expected from a human-alien pair. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Soon, the whole room was applauding. Some people looked surprised. Others looked thoughtful. A few even seemed moved. Afterward, a diplomat from the Veeri delegation approached Kethra. You have done something we did not think possible, he said. You have made our species feel known. Kethra looked at Lila. We both did. Later, that night, Lila and Kethra sat outside the observation deck again, looking out at the stars. Do you think it changed anything? Lila asked. Maybe, Kethra said. People saw us not as test subjects, but as friends. Friends, Lila repeated. Yes, Kethra said. Is that strange? Lila shook her head. No. They watched the stars for a while longer. Then Kethra reached into her pouch and pulled out a small woven strip of fabric. It was dark blue with silver threads running through it. This is for you, she said. Lila took it carefully. What is it? A token, Kethra said. From my people. It means lasting bond. Lila looked at her. Like friendship? Deeper, Kethra said. Like memory. Lila swallowed. Thanks. She clipped it to her jacket right near her heart. As they sat there, the indicator stayed blue, steady, strong. And for the first time in a long time, Lila didn't feel alone. She felt seen, understood, and maybe, just maybe, accepted. Not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but slowly, like the tide shifting. People who had doubted the resonance program started paying attention. Some even signed up as volunteers. Others watched Lila and Kethra more carefully, trying to understand what they had done differently. But Lila didn't care about that. What mattered was that other pairs were starting to find their own rhythm. Some struggled, some failed, but some succeeded in small ways, just enough for their indicators to flicker. With colored dot, word spread across Nova 7 that real connection wasn't about forcing emotions or copying behavior. It was about listening, about patience, about being honest even when it was hard. One day, Lila was walking through the lower deck when she saw Dan, the scientist who had mocked her before, sitting with a tall, bird-like delegate from the Zilari species. They were trying to share a meal, but neither seemed to know how. Dan kept offering food, but the Zilari just stared at it. Lila stopped. Dan looked up and saw her. He gave an awkward wave. She walked over. You're doing it wrong. Dan frowned. Thanks. They don't eat solids, Lila said. They absorb nutrients through their skin. Dan blinked. Oh. The Zilari tilted its head, watching. Lila closely, she turned to them. Hi, I'm Leela. The Zilari responded with a soft hum. Lila glanced back at Dan. Try touching your hand to theirs. It's how they greet each other. Dan hesitated, then reached out slowly. The Zilari met his touch gently. A moment later, Dan's indicator flickered. Orange. He looked stunned. See? Lila said. It's not about getting it right every time, it's about trying. Dan nodded. Okay, thanks, Lila. She gave a small smile. No problem. As she walked away, she felt something warm in her chest. Things were spreading. Not fast, not loud, but real. Later that night, Kethra found her in the quiet lab space they often used. I heard what you did today, Kethra said. Just gave someone a tip, Lila said. Still, Kethra said. You are helping more than just us. Lila shrugged. Maybe we were just the first. Or maybe, Kethra said, we were the spark. They sat together side by side while Lila worked on a broken translator unit. The indicator on her wrist stayed blue. Steady. Kethra watched her for a while, then spoke again. My time here is ending soon. Lila paused. Really? Yes, Kethra said. I must return home for a time. Lila looked down. She had known this might happen, but hearing it made it feel real. Will you come back? She asked quietly. If I am allowed, Kethra said. And if you still want me to? Lila gave a small nod. Of course I will. Kethra reached out and placed her hand over Lila's wrist, where the indicator glowed softly. Then we are not done, she said. Lila looked at her. No, not yet. Outside, Nova 7 drifted silently through space. Inside, something new had begun, and it was growing. Months had passed since Kethra left Nova 7. The station kept moving, spinning slowly. In the cold dark of space, life went on. New volunteers joined the resonance program. Some failed. Some succeeded. But no one matched what Lila and Kethra had built together. Lila stayed on the station, working in the lab as usual. She still avoided big conversations. Still, preferred machines to people. But now when someone asked about her work, she didn't just talk about tech. She talked about connection, about how it wasn't easy, about how it was worth it anyway. One morning, she got a message. Arrival scheduled. Kethra of the Vayari cluster. She read it twice, then again. Her hands felt unsteady. She clipped the small, woven token, Vayari for lasting bond, to her jacket like always and walked outside. The station buzzed with activity. Traders came and went. Diplomats met in quiet rooms. Scientists argued over data streams. But Lila only had one place in mind: the observation deck. When she arrived, she saw the docking bay through the wide window. A sleek ship was pulling in. Familiar. Her heart beat faster than she liked. A few hours later, the message came through. Arrival confirmed. She waited at the exit ramp, hands in her pockets. Then she saw her. Kethra stepped off the ship, tall and still, her many eyes scanning the room. When they landed on Lila, she stopped. For a moment, neither moved. Then Kethra smiled. If you could call the slow tilt of her head and soft click of her antennae a smile. "Hello, Lila Bennett," she said. "Hey," Lila replied. They walked toward each other, and then the indicator on Lila's wrist lit up. Not blue, not green. Violet. Highest level known. Kethra looked down. So did Lila. They both stared. "Well," Lila said quietly, "that's new." Kethra tilted her head slightly. "Or maybe not." Lila looked at her. "You came back." "I said I would," Kethra said. "People don't always keep promises," Lila admitted. "We do," Kethra said. Lila gave a small nod. "Yeah, we do." They started walking together side by side through the long halls of Nova 7. "How was your home?" Lila asked after a while. "Familiar," Kethra said. "But different without you." Lila glanced at her. "Really?" "Yes," Kethra said. "I told them about us." "About what we built?" "Yes," Kethra said, and they listened. Lila was quiet for a moment, then she said, "Things have changed here too." "I know," Kethra said. "I read the reports. Others are making connections now." "Because of us?" Lila asked. "Because of honesty," Kethra said. They reached the edge of the observation deck. The stars stretched out before them, endless and bright. Lila looked at the violet glow on her wrist, then at Kethra. "So," she said. "What now?" Kethra stood beside her, calm and steady. "Now," she said, "we keep going." Lila smiled, just a little, but it was real, and that was enough.